Welcome to Chapter 4 of Emergency Medicine series. This video will be on fluids, electrolytes, and acid-base balance. Fluids, electrolytes, and acid-base balance are critical components of patient care in the emergency department. When these balances are altered, correction should follow a logical sequence. First, restore volume. Second, correct pH disturbances. Third, address potassium, calcium, and magnesium abnormalities. And finally, adjust sodium and chloride levels. Often, restoring tissue perfusion alone can help normalize these balances. Normal saline is an ideal fluid for volume replacement because its osmolarity closely matches that of serum. Hypotonic fluids such as 5% dextrose should never be used for volume replacement. Lactated Ringer solution is commonly used for surgical or trauma patients, however, only NS can be administered in the same line with blood products. Maintenance fluids, such as NSD5 with or without potassium, are generally given for ongoing needs, while more concentrated dextrose solutions, like dextrose 10 or dextrose 20, are reserved for patients with impaired glucose mobilization, such as those with hepatic failure or receiving total parenteral nutrition. Assessment of a patient's volume status is primarily clinical. A history of vomiting, diarrhea, fever, decreased fluid intake, chronic disease, altered consciousness, or reduced urine output suggests volume loss or dehydration. Physical signs include dry mucosa, a shrunken tongue, and decreased skin turgor. In infants and children, sunken fontanelles, delayed capillary refill, lack of tears, and decreased wet diapers are indicative. Severe cases may present with lethargy or coma, suggesting significant comorbid conditions. Laboratory values such as blood urea nitrogen, creatinine, and hematocrit are often unreliable, whereas plasma and urine osmolarity are better indicators. Volume overload, on the other hand, is a clinical diagnosis characterized by edema, pulmonary congestion, or jugular venous distension. Blood pressure alone is insufficient to determine volume status. Maintenance fluid requirements vary by age. In adults, D5 and A half-NS is administered at 75 to 125 ml per hour with 20 meq/L potassium chloride for an average adult weighing approximately 70 kilograms. In children, fluid requirements are calculated based on weight, 100 ml per kilogram per day for the first 10 kilograms, 50 ml per kilogram for the next 10 kilograms, and 20 ml per kilogram for each kilogram thereafter. Electrolyte disturbances are common and require careful evaluation. It is important to verify any abnormal laboratory results before initiating therapy, especially if the clinical picture does not match. Electrolytes exist in equilibrium, so correcting a single abnormality may not be sufficient. Abnormalities should generally be corrected at the same rate they developed, except in urgent conditions such as hypoglycemia or severe hyperkalemia. Hyponatremia, defined as a sodium concentration below 135 meq/L, presents with symptoms such as nausea, weakness, headache, agitation, hallucinations, cramps, confusion, lethargy, and seizures, particularly when sodium drops below 120 meq/L. The evaluation requires assessment of volume status and comparison of measured and calculated serum osmolarity. True hyponatremia presents with low osmolarity and can be due to primary water gain, sodium loss exceeding water loss, or abnormal water distribution. Factitious hyponatremia may result from hyperglycemia, hyperproteinemia, or hyperlipidemia and is associated with normal or high osmolarity. The syndrome of inappropriate antidiuretic hormone secretion, SIADH, is characterized by hyponatremia, elevated urine osmolality despite low serum osmolarity, elevated urine sodium, and clinical euvolemia, and is a diagnosis of exclusion. Emergency management focuses on correcting existing volume deficits with NS and restricting fluids in euvolemic or hypervolemic patients. Severe, acute hyponatremia with neurological manifestations warrants hypertonic saline administration, while avoiding overly rapid correction to prevent complications such as congestive heart failure or central pontine myelinolysis. Hypernatremia, defined as a sodium concentration above 150 meq/L, generally arises from decreased total body water due to insufficient intake or excessive loss. Patients typically become symptomatic when serum sodium exceeds 158 meq/L, presenting with irritability, tremors, and ataxia, progressing to lethargy, coma, or seizures at higher levels. Common causes include gastrointestinal fluid loss, hyperpyrexia, excessive sweating, and diabetes insipidus, either central or nephrogenic. Management focuses on correcting volume deficits with NS or lactated Ringer solution and replacing free water with half-normal saline while avoiding a reduction of serum sodium by more than 10 meq/L per day. In children with sodium levels above 180 meq/L, peritoneal dialysis may be indicated in consultation with a nephrologist. Potassium disorders are significant due to their effects on cardiac conduction and neuromuscular function. Hypokalemia, with potassium below 3.5 meq/L, causes weakness, cramps, hyporeflexia, ileus, and dysrhythmias. It most commonly results from diuretic use, increased renal or gastrointestinal losses, or transcellular shifts. Oral potassium replacement is preferred in stable patients, while intravenous potassium chloride is used in unstable patients, with careful attention to infusion rates and ECG monitoring. Hyperkalemia, defined as potassium above 5.5 meq/L, may cause peaked T waves, widened QRS, sine wave patterns, ventricular fibrillation, or cardiac arrest. Immediate management involves stabilizing the cardiac membrane with calcium, shifting potassium into cells with insulin and glucose, bicarbonate, or albuterol, and promoting potassium excretion with diuretics, Kayexalate, or dialysis in severe cases. Continuous monitoring of potassium levels is essential due to the transient nature of many therapies. Calcium disturbances also have significant clinical implications. Hypocalcemia, defined as total calcium below 8.5 meq/L or ionized calcium below 2.0 meq/L, manifests with paresthesias, tetany, seizures, and characteristic signs such as Vostick or Trousseau. It can result from shock, sepsis, renal failure, pancreatitis, hypoparathyroidism, vitamin D deficiency, or hypomagnesemia. Management includes oral calcium supplementation for mild or asymptomatic cases and intravenous calcium administration for symptomatic or severe cases, often alongside magnesium replacement. Hypercalcemia, defined as total calcium above 10.5 meq/L or ionized calcium above 2.7 meq/L, typically results from hyperparathyroidism or malignancy. Patients present with the classic stones, bones, psychic moans, and abdominal groans, along with ECG changes such as depressed ST segments and shortened QT intervals. Treatment focuses on correcting fluid deficits with NS, cautious electrolyte correction, and inhibition of osteoclastic activity using bisphosphonates, calcitonin, or glucocorticoids, with specialist consultation recommended. Magnesium disorders often occur alongside other electrolyte disturbances. Hypomagnesemia presents with CNS symptoms including vertigo, ataxia, seizures, increased deep tendon reflexes, and tetany, as well as cardiac arrhythmias. Causes include alcoholism, poor nutrition, pancreatitis, gastrointestinal and renal losses, and post-DECA correction. Treatment involves oral magnesium supplementation in mild cases and intravenous magnesium sulfate in severe or symptomatic patients, with continuous cardiac monitoring. Hypermagnesemia, though rare, is often due to renal failure with excessive magnesium intake. It presents progressively with nausea, somnolence, muscle weakness, hypotension, and potentially cardiac arrest. Management involves stopping magnesium intake, rehydration with NS, and administration of intravenous calcium in severely symptomatic patients. Acid-base disorders require a systematic approach for diagnosis and management. The initial assessment involves evaluating pH to determine acidemia or alkalemia, followed by identification of the primary disturbance based on bicarbonate and carbon dioxide levels. Anion gap calculation helps differentiate between normal and increased anion gap metabolic acidosis. Compensatory mechanisms by the lungs and kidneys are then assessed, and deviations from expected compensation may indicate mixed disorders. Metabolic acidosis can be classified into high anion gap and normal anion gap types. High anion gap metabolic acidosis includes causes such as renal failure, lactic acidosis, ketoacidosis, and toxins, often remembered by the mnemonic A mud piles. Normal anion gap acidosis, or hyperchloremic acidosis, arises from gastrointestinal or renal bicarbonate loss and can be recalled using the mnemonic used CARP. Management includes addressing the underlying cause, providing supportive care with fluids, oxygen, and ventilation as needed, and considering bicarbonate therapy when indicated. Metabolic alkalosis is classified as chloride-sensitive or chloride-insensitive. Chloride-sensitive alkalosis is typically associated with hypovolemia due to vomiting, diarrhea, or diuretics, whereas chloride-insensitive alkalosis results from conditions causing excess mineralocorticoid activity. Symptoms often include muscular irritability, tachyarrhythmias, and impaired oxygen delivery, frequently accompanied by hypokalemia and hypochloremia. Treatment involves correction of dehydration with normal saline, monitoring electrolytes, and addressing the underlying disorder. Respiratory acidosis results from hypoventilation, leading to carbon dioxide retention. It may progress to confusion, somnolence, or unconsciousness. Common causes include CNS depression, chest wall or pulmonary disease, drug overdose, or trauma. Management focuses on improving ventilation, including intubation if necessary, and treating the underlying disorder. Respiratory alkalosis, characterized by hyperventilation, may occur in conditions such as CNS disease, hypoxia, lung disease, pregnancy, or hyperthyroidism. Symptoms include dizziness, carpal pedal spasm, and chest tightness. Management includes treating the underlying cause, ruling out life-threatening disorders, and judicious use of anxiolytics, while rebreathing into a paper bag is not recommended due to the risk of hypoxia. In summary, effective management of fluids, electrolytes, and acid-base disorders requires careful clinical assessment, understanding of pathophysiology, and timely intervention. Prompt correction of volume, electrolytes, and pH abnormalities, combined with supportive care and monitoring, can prevent life-threatening complications and optimize patient outcomes in the emergency setting. Thank you.